Welcome, dear guests, dear friends, dear members, dear partners, dear sponsors to our event. Today, this event is even more special thanks to one of the biggest sponsors of our chapter, Kanban, because they not only bring Teodora Bozheva, but they bring also their partners, strategic partners network with them. As we have announced in the invitation, they have a special gathering, and we are very happy to get mixed and mingle together and to exchange experience now or maybe afterwards on the rooftop terrace, because after the presentation, we'll go to the rooftop terrace where we'll have our networking part. So today we'll hear from Teodora some, I believe, very relevant topics, how we can make our roadmap more efficient, more business oriented, how we can create a culture driven by purpose, by collaboration and customer centricity. Without further ado, I would like to give her the floor, and also, if you can move the slide, I would like to thank our sponsors. As you see, the list is long. I won't mention them. We thank you, because without you, this event, also our biggest event, won't be possible. So, Teodora, I welcome you on stage. It will be an interactive session.
Hi, everyone. How's everyone feeling? Good? Thumbs up? Oh. My work is weak. Okay. Good evening. Does that sound okay? Hi. So, how many of you know who Teodora is? Or actually, maybe how many of you don't know who she is? This is an easier question. A few. Okay. Okay. Since nobody knows who I am, I'm just gonna tell you. My name is Veronica. I am part of the partnerships team at Kanban, and I have made it my mission to make sure that everybody knows who this incredible woman is, so I decided to join her here on stage. And I asked her, Teo, how do I introduce you? Because she doesn't want to introduce herself ever. I said, how do I introduce you? And she said, oh, just say this and that. And I said, well, but you've done so much more. And she said, oh, it's not that much. So I said, okay, let's see. So I made a list. And these are just the things off the top of my head. I mean, that list could go on. But just to share some points for the 5 hands that didn't know who she was. CEO of Berry Process Agility, facilitator of the adaptive PPM program, creator and facilitator actually of the program, world-known enterprise agility trainer and coach, co-author of the Kanban Maturity Model, international speaker on agile, author and many other topics, author of the Complete Guide to Project, Program, and Portfolio Management with Kanban, leader of the successful implementations of numerous companies, some of which you will hear about today. And on top of that, she's an awesome human being. As per her husband, she's a Kanban Platinum partner for 10 plus years. Round of applause for that, one of her longest standing. A sworn Plovdiv resident, defendant of Bulgarian yogurt, and a genuinely amazing human. So these are the small starting list of how awesome she is. So just a normal person. So my first question to you, Teo, today is, you're achieving so much. I think most people would get tired by this point, and you just keep going. So I wanted to know, on behalf of everyone, I think, what gives you the drive to do everything you do and do it so tirelessly?
This is one of the reasons. Seeing people that might be interested in what we are doing and how. Okay, thank you. So this is one of the reasons, to see people who are interested in learn something new and apply it in their companies. And I would say the most motivating reason is seeing companies improve. So when I see people telling me, when people tell me that they have a better life now, thanks to some practices that they have introduced, I have enough energy for several months.
Is there a specific case in mind that maybe was one of the turning points when you realized that, okay, this is my passion, this is what I'm good at, this is what I want to do?
I definitely want to help companies to become better places for work and to achieve their business objectives. I don't know whether this works now. Yes? Okay. And yeah, I want to, when, for example, I talk with the director of a project management office who is telling me that for a second year we cannot achieve more than 30% of our strategic plan, annual strategic plan, I think we can do something about this. We can help this company and they can make it internally. So I think this is a good reason.
Okay, so keeping that company in mind, what was it like when they came to you? What was the problem? What were the pain points that they came to you with?
The pain points, there are so many, and they join forces against the people and against the companies. So I think that maybe you all are working in project organizations, right? So can you imagine situations, or if you think on your situations in your companies, do you think that you are kind of a victim of the fact that priorities are changing very frequently because of customer changes, because of delays of other projects, or because of, for example, some changes in the personal life or in the health situation of some people, and they cannot do their job as expected. So these delays like cause the domino effect and affect other projects, or because you have to change, because the company changes strategic priorities, or because there are changes in the requirements, or because unexpectedly we faced more difficult a problem that is technically more difficult than you expected, and therefore it requires more time, or it requires more effort of more people or certain specialists, or maybe because you discovered a bug, a defect in your product, and you have to fix it, definitely by a certain date, and simply time is flying and there is not enough time to fix this defect, but you have to do it. So in the end, there is a kind of combination of so many factors that affect the delivery dates, that affect the budgets, and for any company, not reaching deadlines and budget estimations is a problem, but for some companies it's really a huge problem. So in the end, all these factors affect the business outcomes. So this is really tough situations in many organizations. And sometimes when I talk with the people in the organizations, with the project managers, with the people in the project management offices, it feels like if you have lived in, not lived, but if you can think of like a 30 kilometers long traffic jam, when everyone is in a hurry, everyone wants to reach the destination and tries to find their road from here and there and just cutting the movements of other cars, because they really want to arrive where they are heading to on time, but simply it's not possible. So it's like kind of a very high tension that is lived in the organization. And although they do their best, in the end, the traffic is collapsed, it stays, or it moves so slowly that it's impossible for them to achieve their objectives of all the projects and all the business, because we are not talking about 1 or 2 projects, we are talking about all the projects in the company. So it's really tough situation.
Okay, so excuse that I'm prying for details, but this is interesting, I think. Can you provide maybe an example, not naming necessarily, I know that there's certain restrictions, but can you provide an example of a time where someone was metaphorically stuck in a traffic jam, and what was that like for them? And what was it like when they worked with you? Like what was it like afterwards?
In the beginning, they are frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
They are so impatient because they have to fix the problems. Somehow they have to deliver on time. They have to meet the customer expectations. So it's like very stressful situation. Several years later, I don't say several weeks or several months, but like 2 years after that, when they start, usually the situation is completely different. People say, now we can spend our weekends with our families, with friends, because we know that everything is on the Kanban board, on Kanbanize, of course. And we know that everything is well organized. We know that on Friday we leave everything well thought, well planned for the next week. On Monday we just go to the office and we continue our work. And during the weekend we do not have to think constantly, yeah, I have to do this on Monday, and maybe I have to do this on Tuesday, and maybe I have to call that customer, and maybe I have to do this thing. So this is very important about the mental health. During the pandemic, we started working with a hospital, with the Hospital Belvich in Barcelona. And I didn't know about this, but like several months later, yeah, still in the pandemic, the lady who is leading this initiative in the Belvich Hospital in Barcelona, she said that, in fact, starting to manage their work with Kanban helped them improve their mental health and their psychological situation, health. And if people, especially in the hospitals during the pandemic, say this, so it's really a very strong argument about working on improving the way of work, the way of managing work in the companies. So yeah, people can enjoy their time. For some managers, this is just between us. Maybe afterwards you can cut it. But for some managers, it's really, the tension is so high that sometimes they have to take some pills to be able to sleep well. Sometimes they have to have sessions with psychologists, so it's really a big relief having everything in order.
Do you think that that's something they expected to get out of working with you? Was that even a problem that they even identified?
Not at all, no. In the beginning, when we start working with companies, it's usually the focus on improving, typically make something about achieving deadlines, improving, reducing the costs, the extra budgets, improving the business outcomes. But afterwards, what happens is that, in fact, the relationship with the people, between the people in the company change, because they start making teams, talking about visualizing work, working together with focus on a clear objectives, clear results that they have to deliver, seeing in the entire department, seeing the entire work that they have on the board and making joint decisions, defining their own policies to work together. So this really changes how they work together, how they relate to each other within the teams, between the teams, because when they start managing the end-to-end workflow, of course, it's not about one team of specialists, it's usually about several teams of specialists. So they start making collaborating between the teams, between departments. Up to that point, typically we have silos like borders between the departments and very little information between them, so they start working together as a team, which they appreciate a lot. I remember in the BBVA, BBVA is the second largest bank in Spain, and when they started working on an extended process that was going through different areas of the bank, and I was a little bit pushing them to see the metrics, because I know that if we do not demonstrate quantitative improvements to the management, we cannot justify what we are doing, and I'm not sure whether they would accept the results. And I remember one day they told me, you insist too much on showing data, but what we are very happy with is that we are working as a team. And until now, we've never worked like this, people from different business areas. So this really changes the culture, the way they behave, their behaviors, the way of thinking, the way of decision making. And at management level, we also see different behaviors, precisely because they have facts, they have data, they start understanding their organization as a system, they start understanding how the interactions between departments, between the teams, affect the business results, and they start making decisions with this understanding in mind, and therefore the decisions are a lot more reasonable and achievable, of course, which is very important. So in the end, I would say the culture changes, and when I say culture, I mean the way of thinking, the way of behaving, the way of relationships, the relationships that we observe in the companies. And this is really very important. Sometimes I know that the companies, especially in the beginning, some of them don't think about the cultural change, but it happens naturally. So we don't start with it, but it happens, yes.
Would you say that the culture change is one of the things that makes APPM different or unique? Because realistically, like, lots of companies have a team of agile coaches. Like, some of them have dozens or hundreds even, right? Why would they abandon those coaches and come to you? What are they going to learn that they don't already know, or that they can't be helped with through the agile coaches that they have, that they're already paying for? I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Well, the agile coaches, they do a good job in the companies because they try to introduce some practices. But because we always go last after all agile initiatives and other improvement initiatives, we typically go after them. I think that what both agile coaches, internal change agents, people from the company, managers, what they learn is first to understand how their organization works, how the interactions between the business units affect the business results, the achievements of their projects. They learn to first they learn to define their own rules for managing their own work. This is something very important. Usually in the beginning they say, yes, we have our processes, yes, we know how we do our work, but when we really start visualizing the work end to end, and we say, okay, so how does the work has to exit this stage of the process that is developed by a certain group of specialists or department, in order that the team that's in the next stage in the process can continue developing this product or service that they are creating together. We see that in these points, usually this is territory of nobody, because it's not the previous groups of specialists or department, it's not the next one responsibility. So they are like gaps, and they define the policies, the rules for managing work across the entire organization, and not only during the entire workflow end to end, but also how decisions are made from strategy to operations and vice versa, bottom up. So because they create their own solution, their own rules for managing their projects, and they learn how to improve them continuously, so they can always. So it's not about following certain practices, it's not about compliance, it's about really understanding how to manage work, how to create a flow of work so that the work doesn't stop, avoiding traffic jams. So this is what they learn. And in addition, these side effects that are the improvement in the culture, it's always positive for the companies.
As an author of the KMM, the Kanban, is there someone here who is unfamiliar with the Kanban Maturity Model? Cool. All right. So in that case, since everyone knows what we're talking about, would you say that these companies, the majority of them, or I don't even know if you can say that or not, but do they know? Are they any good at placing themselves at the accurate level? Do they know what their actual weaknesses are? For example, if they come and say, we have excellent visibility, do you notice that they're usually correct, or?
They always think that they have excellent visibility.
Do they?
And afterwards they realize that they don't have it. Yeah, because they always have some Excels, some tools, some simple Kanban boards in some tools. So this gives them the feeling that, yes, they have visibility. But when they really see everything connected and everything on one board, from the strategy through the status of at portfolio level or project level, up to the tasks that are completed by the departments, they understand that they see a lot more, and seeing this, all this information, helps them focus on the right objectives, focus on the right things, and therefore achieve their objectives. So this is really important. And it is very important that the entire organization understand which is this common purpose that, that we are seeking to achieve, and work concentrated on this purpose. I don't know, maybe we can show the video of Aitori Guren.
Okay. How many people, just to show how representative the sample is, how many people have been through the APPM program, which many people might know as the KPPM program?
How many people?
How many companies?
Yeah, that's an easier question. How many companies? Almost 30 companies.
Okay, so how many people then?
We have
More or
small
less.
companies, like 30 people companies, and we have companies of 2,500 people. So 20, I don't know, if we take an average of
Mm-hmm. Would it be wrong
500.
to say like several tens of thousands?
Yeah, that
Okay.
would be fair.
So you should have some examples, right? From
Yeah.
All right, you've brought some for us to see
Yeah.
today?
Yeah, this is Aitori Guren.
Can you guys see?
This is the general manager of, this comes from a small company, okay, small engineering company.
Yes, you're going to have to work more, you're going to have to declare, you're going to have to enter the tasks, going to do the job. But in return, you have everything under control. From my point of view, it's worth it, without a doubt. And you're surprised when you get to see everything that's happening written down. Because as time goes by, I wonder, 8 years ago, how did we do it? I see the amount of things that are, and that's impossible to explain, and carry all this inside anyone's head. How did we do it? I don't know. But now we are calmer and under control. To achieve the goals, it requires everyone being all together, looking at the same problem. That's what we finally learned to do. Resources are limited, and all processes have limits, and people have limits. Sometimes deciding for them is deciding between two bad options, but we're going to decide together, and we're going to assume the consequences together. I believe that's what it contributes in some way, looking at the same problem together and making decisions based on data. Kanban gives you the map of everything that's happening.
Yeah, so this is one example, small company. He says, this is the general manager, he says in the beginning, it looks like we have to work more. And companies confuse this with more bureaucracy, because you will have to create cards on the Kanban board. You have to have a Kanban board. So it's like additional work. In addition to doing everything, I have to put all my tasks in Kanban. So this is more bureaucracy, right? But afterwards, you understand everything that happens, and you can make informed decisions. And 8 years later, 8 years, in fact, this is the company that I meant that like 2 years later, they said, now we can have our holidays and our weekends without thinking on our work. And 8 years later, they can't remember, they can't imagine how they used to work 8 years ago, because having everything under control now is so easy, is so natural that, it's really surprising for them. And this is one of the important things, that when you see the entire picture of what's the situation, independently whether you are at team level, you are at project level, you are at portfolio level, you are at a strategic level, when you have the same picture in front of the eyes of all decision makers, this at least saves time for discussions, for explaining, for trying to justify what is my opinion and what Veronica thinks, and maybe what other people that are involved in this situation think, because they see the same picture, and then it's easy to go to the point directly and take right decisions. And if you complement this visual picture with data about the flow of work, then decision making is a lot straightforward.
What do you think is at stake if they're not convinced? They just think that, you know what, we've invested so much already. We have all these coaches hired. We have these strategies. We've been working on them for so long. Let's just give that a shot. What happens, in your opinion? And this, of course, is your best guess. But what's the opportunity cost of them not working with you?
This has happened several times to us. I mean, of course, it's a lot. If all the agile space talks about a certain method, of course you have more feeling that this should be our method. No? So what Teodora is telling, maybe, well, it sounds like nice, but all the other companies are doing something different. So of course, it's up to the companies to select how they want to approach their problems. But what I would say is that if it's like going to your doctor, and if you have some problems and you do not address the root causes for these problems, you will keep having them. You might take a treatment after treatment, but until you really address the root cause for the problem, you will keep having it. So I don't want to say that one method is better than another one, but I think I would invite the companies to think whether what they do really addresses the principal reasons for what they see as symptoms. Because everything that they see, change of priorities, wrong estimations, defects, long delivery time, all these are symptoms of causes that are deeper. So they have really to understand where they have to take some actions. So what's at stake? What's at stake is just time. Because if they try other approaches that do not address really the root causes, it's time, it also costs, and it's also kind of losing the energy of the people, because of course all the people want to do something and see outcomes of it, see that yes, it's worth, we have achieved something. So if they try something and do not achieve improvement, then they try another thing and they do not achieve improvement. The third time when someone suggests a change, they will say, no, we've done already several attempts and we have not achieved anything. So yeah, so this has happened to us several times. They tell you, you're the third consultant that you come here. We are not convinced that something will change. So it's about time, it's about money of the organization, because they invest a lot in change initiatives, and it is about the energy and the motivation of the people. So,
what about the change? Is it maybe they're feeling like it's wasteful to switch course? What about the changes so difficult for companies to overcome?
I don't say that it's easy. It's about how you see it and how it is communicated to the company, and what motivates them to take part. So if we just communicate it as we have decided to make a change in a company, we might have few followers for this change. However, if we define why we want to achieve some change, why we propose some changes to our practices, and people in the company understand how this benefit them, then it's a different situation. For example, again in the pandemic, because it was an extraordinary situation, especially in Spain during the first lockdown, ULMA handling system developed facilities for baggage handling at the airports, and their places of delivering their project work, the airports are in different places in Spain, in different countries, in different continents. And during the pandemic, of course, because of travel restrictions and because of many other restrictions that we had, it was very difficult. It became very difficult for them to keep monitoring and controlling and adjusting their projects to the situation that we were living. And then they decided really to speed up the adoption of the practices for managing the workflow at all levels of the companies, with Kanban systems, with Kanbanize, in order to have information about what is happening and have this information instantly, because they could not travel so easily to Brazil, to Israel, to France, to all other places. They really needed to have this information on time to be able to decide how to act in this exceptional situation. So when they explain it like this, especially when their CEO explained it like this to the entire company, there were no objections, because that was the only way to keep doing their work in such an extraordinary situation. So, and something that other companies do, and something that takes other companies like a year or two to achieve, they developed it in 3 months, because they really need it. So they really had this exceptional motivation. So this is the video of Asier Aguirre, if we can put it. Asier Aguirre is a senior project manager. He's a member of the project management office of ULMA handling system. And he took at that time very active participation and part in developing the solution for ULMA handling systems. They are about 500 people only in Spain, and they have branches in Brazil and in other countries. So yeah, they really developed this solution. They keep using it, of course. So you can listen to him.
We have Kanban, as I told you before, at all levels. We have projects at a multi-project level that we deal with at a strategical level in the organization, where we see the status of the projects and make decisions, for example, in the event of a resource conflict. But then we also have boards at all levels, even a board simply for a team or an area, a board above a single project. And above all of that, we have the multi-project board. The entire organization, without a doubt, all the boards are linked to each other. That's to say that a change in the low level is reflected in high level and bidirectional. A decision maker at a very high level should have influence at the low level. I think it's important that both from the top down and from the bottom up, that visibility is total and real time.
Yeah. This visibility is something that, of course, they thought that they have visibility. Because they have the data, they have the status reports of the project, so they think they thought they knew what was happening in the projects. However, afterwards, when they have all this visibility at all levels, and when they can see all the details, starting from portfolio to project to department level to up to the level of the tasks that the people do, they realize how much information they were missing before that. And in addition, the Kanban systems, especially when they are implemented in Kanbanize, give them this information about cycle time, about block time. So they need this information to be able to estimate more accurately and improve their predictability. Otherwise, it's like guess after guess, and again, we have problems with predictability because we do not use real data. Yeah, so this is what ASEA refers to. So we have this complete visibility, so any change in the decisions is reflected, top down, bottom up, and we use this information plus the data that we get from the Kanban systems to make decisions.
As someone who represents Kanbanize in this conversation, and I think we're basically the same at this point. I mean, we've worked together for how many years? 10? 10 plus?
At least 10.
At least 10. Yeah, so it's hard to think of Kanbanize without thinking of you, and which is an incredible opportunity. So I'm wondering, we're talking about the program. How would you, if you had to summarize, like what are the key things that this audience in this situation should take away about what makes the program unique? Why is it different? And what does a company achieve based on some of the testimonials we've already heard? And
I would say that what makes our adaptive project and portfolio management program unique and different is the fact that the company develops their capabilities to manage their work, defining their policies from inside, not from outside, not taking a method and saying we are going to apply this method like a checklist to make sure that we apply the method. It's not about this, it is about let's, based on an understanding of how we work as an organization, define the processes and the policies that help us best achieve the objectives of our projects and our portfolios, our strategic objectives. And because the business context changes continuously and it's going to continue changing, of course, we cannot stop the world, they develop these abilities to adapt their processes, their policies, in order that the entire business adapts to the new circumstances in which it works. So I think this is the unique part, and all these capabilities are developed internally in the company. So the people develop this knowledge how to do this. They grow professionally. What we hear typically, again, after like a couple of years at least, project managers and portfolio management offices feel themselves as managers, really managers, not just secretaries, not just people who are expert in Excel. So it's not about who is better in Excel in order to assign them the most interesting projects. So it is about who has a good understanding of the organization, good analytical thinking, knows how to use the data, and really creates a team that is focused on achieving the purpose of the organization. So, and yeah, not mentioning that if the company develops this from inside, it lasts, it stays. Because it does not depend on external people, on external consultants, because what we typically see in companies is that when a change is brought from outside through external people, very often it happens that once the contract of these people is over and they do not come to the office anymore, everything goes back to the previous practices. So it's true that companies might need some help from outside until they develop these capabilities, but at some point they have to be able to continue evolving by themselves from inside. Otherwise, the change won't be lasting. I think, Anna, we have a video about this. Anna, Avi, can we, yeah.
One of our most important or our main achievements is that we have been able to align the strategy with the operation. For us, it's essential for everyone at all levels to be completely aligned. They're not the same policies those we had when we started 4 years ago and the ones we have now. We are adapting them according to our needs. The Kanban board system, you have to understand that we have more than 100 Kanban boards connected to each other. We have lots of people and lots of specialists and teams working on these tools, on these boards. And the fundamental part, we have a system that we can measure and that we can evolve.
This is what I believe. I'm sure that companies appreciate this because they are the agents who drive their company ahead, and they know how to adapt to the situations that occur in their business environment. This is something, but these effects, you can observe them. Ana Jimeno Avi is a director of the project management office of Linea Directa, one of the largest insurance companies in Spain. And these are her observations like 4.5 years after starting with the program. So it does not happen overnight, but these are the effects that they observe. And they don't need any more other coaches or consultants.
It's hard not to note that connecting strategy to execution is one of the pillars of Kanbanize. It's awesome that she said that. I believe there was one more example that you brought. Was there one more video?
Yeah, we had another example from Banco Industrial. Banco Industrial is one of the largest banks in Central America. What we brought with this example is that, of course, it's true that the company learns to evolve by themselves, but what is very important, for example, like we are working with a bank, we cannot work with a bank forever because they are a extremely large organization. For a small company, we don't have that much capacity. So in addition to helping them to learn how to define their policies, how to adapt the organizations to all the changes that happen in their business environment, we teach them how to replicate their learning, everything that they have learned, and how from inside help other units or other areas of the bank to start improving. So not only improve our department, our business unit, or our business line, but help other areas of the bank, in this case, to start adopting these practices and achieving improvement. So this is how it spreads. It's like a snowball. So we start from one place, but then we start attaching other snowfalls, other units, teams to this small ball until it becomes larger and larger. And this is what they do because they are in Guatemala, we are in Spain, so of course we cannot. By the way, we've never been in Guatemala. We've always worked with them remotely. But yeah, this is what they tell here. And the other very important thing, especially for portfolio managers, business unit managers, executive directors, they have everything, the entire information they have to report to the executive board, they have it there on the board on Kanban. So for them, reporting, it's not an additional effort anymore. They don't have to focus on creating the reports because we have a review meeting, because the report is always there in real time. So they have to focus on addressing the risks that have appeared, addressing the problems that have appeared, not on creating the report. And Diego Vasquez, that guy here, he's he's the director of electronic banking business area, large business area in the bank, like more than 200 people. And Eric Fernandez is a member of the lead office in the bank, so we can listen to them.
And one of the other things we're proud of is that we're now using the dashboards to show everything at the management level. All the information that at some point was required and that we had distributed in many places. That is one of the most valuable assets.
We have taken Kanban as a lean office to other areas of the organization, and just like the area modern banking, we have seen very good results. We've achieved several things. The first thing is that people are already convinced that implementing Kanban helps them in many aspects of their daily work. We have also managed to reduce errors, a lot of what we have promoted, and that is why we promoted from the lean office to eliminate these errors. This waste that is normally generated in any project management or any other type of work. And something that I personally feel proud of with this implementation is that more and more of Banco Industrial's employees, when they see this tool, when they see these working methods, are convinced that it really works. When we show success stories internally with other areas of the bank, when they see the results, they say, I want the same thing.
Yeah, and they're prepared to help the other areas in the bank to do the same thing. The same thing is never the same thing. Because every business area in the bank is, and like every company, is a different world. So they do different jobs, they have different processes, the policies will be different. So in the end, the solution will be different. However, the bases are the same. Visualizing the work, seeing what is happening in order to be able to make fast decisions, get data, collect the visual information, plus all the feedback loops that we develop in the system in order to make the entire organization work in a synchronized manner, use the flow-related data to make informed decisions, and just focus on doing the work. So it's so easy to focus on doing the work when this basis is already established.
I like to play devil's advocate. And I feel like everything that Teodora is saying, it sounds great. And I'm wondering, because obviously this audience is not random. You guys are professionals. You've been in the battlefield. You know what's happening. So we've prepared a little Slido challenge for you. And my challenge for you is, let's poke holes. I mean, she's so knowledgeable. Let's see. I just want to get all of the doubts that are potentially in your heads. And let's see if, I hope this 4 TV situation doesn't mess up our QR code. Yeah. Oh, no. Okay. We'll get you guys the code. Let's do it the good old-fashioned way. But,
project it in one.
Can you project it on a single screen? No? All right. Well, in the meantime, the challenge here is this. What is your yes, but? So you've heard what Teodora has said. You've listened to the testimonials. What's the yes, but in your head, if there is one?
And this is my favorite part.
Yeah, poke holes. I'm so curious. I'm so fascinated by this part. So is there anything that doesn't sound, that you feel like, I don't know, I'm not really sold on this? Like,
may I comment on something?
Yeah, for sure.
Actually, it's an invitation to Teodora to comment how the program is compatible with PMI stuff. Because I
Absolutely. Yes, it perfectly fits because it's all about planning, it's all about monitoring the state of work, it's all about executing the work, of course it has to be done, and it's all about continuous improvement. The slight difference, but it's not a difference, it's like complementing all the practices and processes, knowledge areas from project management body of knowledge, is that so you know all the knowledge areas of project management body of knowledge. For example, what we add through the adaptive project and portfolio management are practices for adjusting the course of the projects in order to meet the deadline. So it's not just monitoring and controlling. Somehow I want to remove control because you will keep your projects under control all the time, but it is about monitoring and adjusting the course of the actions. How can you achieve this adjustment? Precisely because you have always in front of your eyes the information about what is the situation of the project and other projects, what is the workload, the current workload of the people that are involved in the projects, and also these people are involved in the decision making about what can we do in the situation in which we are in order to achieve our milestone, our deadline, or whatever it is. So it is about you always have your status report there. You don't have to do anything about creating these status reports. So you monitor your project work continuously it's on the board and Kanbanized, and you are able, because you get feedback, instant feedback about the risks, about the problems, about where some tasks become delayed because of technical problems or whatever. So the team, the project team or other project teams, managers, they are capable to very quickly take decisions what is appropriate to do in this situation to avoid delay, to avoid extra costs. So this is how we help them adjust the course of the projects. Then it's a lot about communication and alignment. So instead of just having scheduled different meetings for reporting the project status, for coordinating with suppliers, coordinating with other teams, etc., again, because all this information is on the board on Kanban, so communication gets incomparably easier, and because the project objectives are also on the board and they are clear to all the people who see this information, the alignment becomes a lot easier. So when people work in a well-coordinated and aligned manner, things happen faster. And this happens naturally because there is no waste of time because of I did not understand what was the decision or what was really the situation. So all these misunderstandings disappear. So very frequently, business unit managers, portfolio members are telling us that two things are happen in the companies when we start managing our work with interconnected Kanban systems. First, we stop discussing because it's clear, everything is on the board. So we do not have to discuss what and how each of us sees a certain situation. It's on the board, so we immediately go to the point that it is important to be considered and resolved. And the second point, the second improvement is that we have reduced a lot the time for meetings because, again, because we don't have discussions, because we do not have to prepare reports, because we do not have to explain what is the situation of the project, because we see it, it's on the board in front of the eyes of everybody. So the time for meeting drops drastically, and the misalignment, the misunderstanding disappear, or to a certain extent, they disappear sometime later, but to a certain extent, they start disappearing gradually. And in fact, this helps them achieve their project objectives. And the fourth groups of practices that complements all the practices from project management body of knowledge are the practices related to learning from their proper experience and adapting, being able to adapt the processes and the decision-making policies in the organization in order to get better in all their projects, not in one or two projects, but in achieving all the objectives. So how does this happen? Again, from these feedback loops and learning from the experience, they know what kind of practices they defined in order to address a certain problem. They know what they really achieved. They can compare what they expected and what really happened. And this is what generates the internal learning about the organization. Based on this learning, they can continuously improve and adapt. So the practices that we define in this model are 100% complementary, and in addition, we have already validated this in so many companies. For example, the first company that you saw here, Sumabe, Aitori Guren, they certified their processes with ISO 21500, which is in fact based on project management body of knowledge. So yeah, these are complementary practices, but if you have any other particular questions, I will be happy to answer.
Having said all that, can you say that the Kanban system is applicable for all industries and can drive improvement in the delivery process of any industry, including construction, for example, but any?
If there are processes for managing the work, then it is applicable, because it's not about a certain industry. It is about managing the work, applying the process that is applicable in this industry. So the process in Kanban, when you define it, it's about how you do your job, how you do the work. So this is what you define on a Kanbanized board. And as examples, for example, we have applied it in banks, which is financial area, insurance companies, engineering, industrial engineering companies, hospitals, marketing agencies, retail company, very large retail company. We have another experience from them. And it works, but it's not because we are doing something special, simply because this is the way you design your Kanbanized boards. You always have the process on the top of the board. So if in an industry or in a sector you do your job and you know how you do it, you know your process, you will be able to model it and manage it.
I was thinking of one more earlier, and I have to remember it now. But when you said boards like this, you said that there is no need to discuss, or at least the need to discuss gets lower because everything is visible. But in my practice, I see that we enable such processes, similar boards like Kanban, but when people struggle to clearly define the task and the problem statement, the process doesn't add much value. So how do you solve this through your
helping
system?
them to define the deliverables? It's about defining what a card represents. So at the bottom, the card should be a deliverable, a result, something that somebody expects these results because it meets their needs, their expectations. So this somebody could be the end customer, and this somebody could be somebody from the other department. For example, in a larger company, if we have a design department, design specialist, engineers, then we have production, then we have maybe assembly. So each department or group of specialists at the next stage in the process are receiving the result of the people from the previous stage of the process. So the cards have to represent these results. If they have not yet, this happens, by the way, always in the beginning. It's about what a card represents, what are the results, what do we do. So this is one of the big learning in the companies because they really understand what they do, what results they deliver to their colleagues inside the company, and all together, combining all the internal results, they produce the final output for the customer. So if they still have discussions about what a card should represent, this means that they have not yet defined their process and the deliverables and the boards. So it's a matter of a little bit of guidance, not too much time. They are close. If they have started, they will finish it, of course. But yes, this happens. They will come to this for sure.
It's a challenge because I've seen, we claim we have understood. We believe we have understood. But once you deliver what you believe should have been delivered, you realize that, well, it's not exactly what
it was not exactly
we wanted. And we've spent the time and effort, it's been wasted, essentially.
Now you learned.
But you've learned, yeah.
And now you use this learning to again ask yourself, what do we really do? What do we deliver? What our colleagues or what our clients are expecting from us? And you adjust your solution, and maybe the second or the third iteration, you will already have your solution. So it's about this kind of learning and adjusting your solution. Therefore, I thought Igor was saying that in the beginning, it looks like we have to do more work. But afterwards, you understand what it brings to you. So this is absolutely normal what happens in your case. So just don't give up. Do a second iteration.
I think it's a matter of mindset on both sides, yeah. on every side, because so that you can manage expectations, so that the consumers of your delivery, put it that way, understand that if you fail to deliver exactly what they expected, it's a learning, as you said. There is a lesson to be learned, and with the next iteration, they can deliver. But they have to be ready, and their expectations must be set. So it's also a matter of mindset, and ensuring this mindset Absolutely. Is recognized by the whole company or everybody involved in this.
That's true, yes. Therefore, I said about the bank that it's the same thing, but in fact, it's not the same thing, because you go to the legal department, you go to the human resources department or talent and culture department, and you see that something that was working for electronic banking, it's not applicable at all to the other departments. So they have to discover what a card means, what do we do, who are our customers, what they expect from us. But basically, the principles we apply, the way of thinking we apply is the same. Simply the result will be different because this is the process of a different groups of specialists, and it responds to different needs. So fundamentally, it's the same. The outcome is different because it's adjusted to this situation. But yes, they have to be prepared. And therefore, I think it would be wrong. Therefore, I said several times, like 2 years later, 3 years later, they achieved this, because it's not, we sat down, we defined our process, and it worked perfectly the first time. This is a process of discovering your way of work that best fits your company, your customers, your needs, your culture, your way of thinking. And yes, in the beginning, it might seem like more work, and it doesn't happen the first time, but afterwards, it starts paying you the effort you dedicated.
Do we have any other questions, comments, feedback, objections, doubts, anything?
How would you react if a client, for example, potential client, compares this to just another scaling framework? Like, they would say, for us, it looks like SAFe, for example. How would you answer this and convince them that it's not?
we never insist that we are better than SAFe or than any other framework. We always tell them, do you want to apply something just because it is defined somewhere? Because it could have been defined for a different company with different culture, with different objectives, with different problems, with different way of thinking. So do you just want to copy this solution and say, if it works for them, it should work for us? Or you prefer to make a solution that is tailored to your organization and you create it. You become the owner and you become the people who can evolve this solution continuously. Because if you just copy another solution from somewhere, if it doesn't work, what do you say? We copied a solution and it doesn't work for us, then we don't need it anymore. But if you create it for you, for your organization, for your people, for your way of thinking, and in addition, you learn how to continuously make it better, always fitting your company, then I would say you always win, because you keep the control over your processes and your way of making decisions. Then you can adapt. If you have another method just applying for compliance, how do you adapt? The methods doesn't say anything about adapting to a changing business situation. Okay.
No other questions? That also means no other objections, which is, I mean, pretty good in my books. Okay, so say that we have a group of people here and none of them have any further questions. Not that you can't ask during the cocktail hour. What would be, if someone's interested in learning more about how we do this, what can they just come and sign up right away? What are the next steps?
The next steps would be to learn a little bit more. Therefore, we recently launched today's course. And the next step would be, if you like the idea, apply it. Is this enough? Or if you need something more, we can think about it.
We do have a sign up. We have a sheet. It's just a white sheet of paper. We're keeping things very simple. Even the QR code didn't work. We have a sheet that's on that table over there. So if anyone is interested in learning more, you can leave your email and your name, and we'll make sure to contact you. And I don't know, is there any sort of, do you need any sort of Kanban knowledge ahead of time, or any sort of agile methodology background, or anything like that?
Now, the most important requirement is willing to learn. No, you don't need any other knowledge. Of course, project management knowledge helps a lot.
All right. Well, I think if no other hands are up, I think we can conclude.
Thank you. Thank you. You were amazing. Thank you for this journey. You are very convincing. So let me know of the outcome of today's meeting. I believe there will be some outcome, some result. And now I would like to close the event. I thank you for your attention, for your interest, curiosity, for being here. And now we'll move to the rooftop of this building, where we'll have our drink and finger food, and where we can mingle and continue our discussion. So thank you. Thank you for being our guest.
Thank you.